Some big issues to talk to Gemma Tognini and Caroline Di Russo about, both joining me again. Gemma on the desk,
mate.
great to see you from GT Communications, and Caroline Di Russo, host of the Royal Report. We'll get to some Royal stuff later, Caro, but I'm really keen to hear from both of you about the Olympics opening ceremony. I got up at silly o'clock on Saturday morning because my boys wanted to watch it, and we're up early watching it, and it was all a bit weird and bohemian, but was it offensive to Christians, Gemma?
Look, I am a Christian, and a shocking plot twist there, I know, everyone. And I do think, look, it's not something anyone would have done to another religion that cannot be named.
No,
let's talk to Charlie Hebdo about that. Yeah. But genuinely speaking, I think that was. I mean, I'm not the type to go, well, I'm throwing my toys out of the cot. But I did feel like that was a really insensitive, offensive thing to do. And I use the word offensive in the sense that it doesn't bother my faith. My faith is not shaken by that. But I look at that and go, what a bunch of knobs. Yes. Really, what a bunch of insensitive. And my father was right about the French, Chris. He's probably sitting...
What did your father say?
Something to do with the Second World War. Let's just leave it at that.
I say, we used to always say in Foreign Affairs that the permanent 5 members of the Security Council were the winners of World War II. And the French.
There we go. French.
Now, Caro, this is the thing, right? I've been brought up in a Catholic household, and everything's fair game, right? And there's no doubt that there's a bit of shtick here directed at Christianity, and they love to throw in as much trans and queer stuff as they can. But I'm a bit with Gemma. It's like you're so sort of juvenile and knobby. If you really want to have a go at some religions that you might have some issues with their social order, there are others you dare not mock. And so it's just a bit puerile. It just distracts from what's supposed to be a celebration of culture and of sport and of humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's... And again, it's not going to shock you, Chris, that I come from a Roman Catholic household. Probably the least controversial, surprising thing that I will ever say on this show. Look, I found it pretty gauche. But like you, we grow up in a place where you do get to lampoon and make fun of, well, pretty much anything that you can get away with lampooning and making fun of. But again, they've just shown us, I suppose, who they are, Chris. And I suppose, in a sense, for me, it's really funny because everyone thinks of the French as being, really stylish and really classic. No, that's the Italians.
That's right.
And here is the French showing us what they really are. That's all I've got for you.
Exactly right. Well said, Comare Carolina.
I don't know about this whole thing,
anytime, Comare Gemma.
Yeah. Buongiorno, Bella. Mi chiamo Cristoforo.
Oh, he's doing so well. I love it.
Look, I tell you what, though. But what about this? Don't we? The whole Olympic ceremony is about opening ceremony. You have a bit of fluff, a bit of singing,
sure.
But don't you get all the athletes into the stadium together? And the French have decided, oh no, we're just going to do it down the river, and it took forever, and we never got that sense.
Well, like I said, I mean, it's the French. Like it's Monty Python got it right. And I'm not going to say anything because someone will get cross. But I think of Sydney 2000. I remember sitting in the canteen at Channel 7 Perth because that was where I was professionally at the time, and watching with my colleague, the great Alison Fan, as that horse came galloping into the stadium and the crack of the whip, and everybody took their breaths, and it was just such a beautiful celebration of parts of Australian culture. And then, as you say, the athletes come out. This was just the French being really, really irritating.
I was at the Sydney opening ceremony. Yeah. It was pretty good. I wrote a story about it once. You can read it in the Australian. I was very, very lucky to be there. Let's move on to another great talking point from the weekend. And these are these old comments of JD Vance's. He made them 3 years ago. They're not that ancient, but they've only come to light because Trump's chosen him as his running mate. Have a look.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
Wow, how about that, Carrie? How's that as an appeal to women voters across America?
Well, there's a couple of things here. There's a couple of things, I suppose. It's a very politically risky thing to say, right? Because you are going to alienate more people than you are ever going to win with a comment like that. So I'm not sure, one, why you would make it in the first place. But it's one of those things that is said, and I don't know if that was a really well thought about comment or an off the cuff, but unfortunately in the world of everything being taped and the internet, it becomes permanent. The fact of the matter is, Chris, is that when people make decisions like that, and some people it's their choice not to get married and have children, and other people it's a varying circumstances that it ends up being that way. If people haven't made that choice and they don't want to actually be in that circumstance, making such a broad and shallow assumption is very hurtful, and I think very unkind and insensitive to that group of people who you have now totally alienated. But it also, I look at it from the point of view, Chris, of why is it that the decision to get married and have children is the only right decision? Again, here's another revelation. I'm not married and I don't have children, but I like to think that I've made some good decisions and I have dodged some bullets, Chris, which I think more people should probably do that. And if getting married and having children was the only right decision, well, then I reckon we'd have lower divorce rates.
Yeah. Well, look, it's just so important because what you say is true. It's just such an insulting thing to say, Gemma, because you don't need. You can say family values are important, and you've got to have family-friendly policies. And guess what? A lot of childless people will support that and promote that. One of the greatest advocates I ever knew for family policies was a dear late gay friend of mine. He never had any kids, but he supported conservative policies in Christopher Pearson. But it's just so insulting. And now you don't have children. No. And you're not a cat lady, though. No, you love your dogs.
I have dogs. I have had 4 dogs and 3 horses, so I guess that rules me out. I think the fundamental thing about those comments are whether he's now saying that they were satire and unintended, whatever. I think they're fundamentally unkind, and it shows that he obviously hasn't had anything to do with someone like me, and I've written about this in the paper, so whilst I'm not usually comfortable talking about this stuff in great detail, like it wasn't my choice not to be a mother, and it's probably the single biggest, will probably be a bruise on my heart this side of heaven. It was not my choice, it was beyond my control, and there are millions of women like me for whom circumstances, medical conditions, life decide for them. They don't have a choice, and it's not something that you can control. And in my own case, I had to make peace with that or live the rest of my life getting cranky about it.
How dare he, in a political way, choose that aspect of someone's life to attack them?
And I think it shows 2 things: a lack of empathy, a lack of 3 things: lack of maturity, and a lack of kindness. Forget his political nous, because that's actually for me the least important part of this equation. And if Donald Trump had any brains, big question, he would have come out and said, "Mate, no."
Yeah,
or words to the effect.
His wife seems to be a pretty intelligent and
she's brilliant, right?
I hope he's getting a good talking to at home. Just very briefly, we haven't got much time to talk about the reshuffle, which for reasons we've talked about earlier is a disaster, I think, for Anthony Albanese, not taking border protection seriously. But I've got some breaking news, and that is a release has just come through that Peter Dutton is off to Israel. He's making a 3-day visit to Israel, which I think is fantastic news. He's off today, and he's going to be meeting, obviously, with senior members there. And this is a great decision, Carrie, to go there to show solidarity and actually show up Anthony Albanese for not doing the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that Penny Wong has gone, but equally other members of the coalition have gone. I think it's a really important show of leadership and statesmanship. And no one has made Peter Dutton go. It is a very good idea, and he has just taken it off his own bat to go that. And it's an absolute shame on Anthony Albanese, and just the continuation, the absolute conga line of fence sitting that we have seen from this Labor government on this issue.
We are all out of time. Thank you so much, Caro and Gemma. I appreciate it, but that's good news. Breaking news there that Peter Dutton is on his way to Israel for a 3-day visit.